What's up? Angela Mosley here, your pre and postnatal corrective exercise trainer specializing in helping you to reverse your prolapse symptoms and eliminate those leaks. In today's video, I'm going to show you several different methods that I use to help moms just like you and myself to advance your core training with our breathing. We're going to overload our breath today, just like we would overload a squat with heavier weights or overload lunges, deadlifts, a chest press with heavier weight as we get stronger. We need to make sure that we are overloading our core and our breathing for optimal results for prolapse and leaking. So what I'm going to show you today is several different options. I do have a yoga block. I have a balloon as well as a straw. And the very first thing that we're going to do is we're simply just going to test how we manage pressure. So go grab those items and join me back here on the mat. Okay, so blowing up a balloon increases intra-abdominal pressure. And most women, the reason that they have ended up with prolapse is because intra-abdominal pressure in the system has not been handled well, meaning that there was pressure in the system that their body just didn't respond well to. And this is many of the times why women can't heal or don't get rid of their symptoms. It's not that we're going to get rid of our prolapse entirely. That's not something that we're working towards. Our main goal is to eliminate those symptoms that you're experiencing with prolapse. So, for example, I have a stage 2 rectocele and I had a stage 2 cystocele. I've been able to get my cystocele down to a 1, but I still have a prolapse because tissue is stretched out, just like with your abdomen. From the baby, you might have some loose skin. So that's how I like to think about prolapse. It's not that we're going to get rid of it entirely. We're just going to work on reducing those symptoms. And now today I'm able to lift well over 100 pounds with my prolapse without having issues or making things worse because I've learned to manage intra-abdominal pressure. And I've been able to do it with my core exercises, my breathing, and then of course with overloading my core with balloons, straws, and a closed fist. So I'm going to show you 4 levels today, but the very first thing that we want to do is just simply test our intra-abdominal pressure. So I'm going to have you join me down on the mat. We're going to come into a supine position. And the idea with the balloon is, like I said, it does increase intra-abdominal pressure. So we're only going to do this to test ourselves and to test our pressure. So if you can, set up a video just like I have set here to view your whole body to see what's going on with your body when you blow up the balloon. Now, just like with any other breathing, we want to think about inhaling through our nose and we want to exhale through the balloon. Now, a couple things I want you to think about. That the balloon, you need to be able to hold the pressure in the balloon while you take an inhale. And many women don't know how to close off their throat or close off the glottis. And so some of that air can come back in. And so we really need to have a strong breathing system to be able to keep the pressure of the breath inside the balloon while we take our next exhale and then exhale into the balloon. A couple things that we're looking for here in this test. So number one, can you keep the pressure in the balloon while you take your next inhale? Then number 2, what is your lower abdominals doing? Are they flattening out as you take your exhale or are they pooching out as you take your exhale? And then number 3, do you feel heaviness or pressure or bearing down into your pelvic floor when you exhale into the balloon? Because this is a lot of resistance. We are going to check for those things and we're checking for them to see if your body actually is ready. And then I'm going to show you several options that you can work towards to progress your breathing and your core training to get you to the balloon. Okay, so go ahead, join me now if you want to hit that record button and record yourself while we do this together. So I'm going to inhale through my nose and then I'm going to exhale into the balloon. And my goal is that I exhale from the bottom up so that I'm not bearing down as I put the pressure or my breath into the balloon because it's resisted, but I'm actually letting those abs flatten as the exhale comes out through the balloon. Okay. Also, I don't want you to hold on with your hands. I also don't want you to clench down onto the balloon. So I'm just using my lips to close it off. I'm not like clenching down. I'm allowing it, the pressure that's going to go into the balloon is going to be controlled because I'm going to be able to close my glottis while inhaling into my nose. Okay, so you've done a couple exhales into the balloon. Now, I want you to take a peek to see what would go wrong if I did more of a reverse breathing pattern, or my lower abs would bulge and that would put pressure down onto my pelvic floor. So I don't know if you could see that, but what happened was on that second time is that my abdomen would descend down on the exhale. So my lower abs would bulge out. And so then I'm putting pressure down onto my pelvic floor. And that's what we want to avoid. And so this is why you're going to take a video of yourself breathing into the balloon just to see where you're starting at and where you need to go. Because if you are bearing down or putting pressure into the abdomen, those lower abs, or putting pressure down into your pelvic floor, your body's just simply not ready for this yet. And that's okay. A couple things that you can do to help get your body ready for the balloon is you can either stretch out, depending on how thick your balloon is, you can stretch out the balloon for that first blow, because that first blow into the balloon is going to be the hardest. It's going to be the hardest on your core and the hardest on your pelvic floor. So if you do have prolapse, then you want to be super mindful of this. So you can either blow it up, have somebody else in your family blow it up for you first. You can blow it up with a pump, or you can simply stretch it out here before you take that first blow. That doesn't mean that you failed. I do that quite a bit myself just to get the balloon, because sometimes the balloon is extra thick and we just need to get into that first blow. But you will notice that after a couple of blows into it, so for example, if I do a core exercise and I do like 5 breaths 3 times through, by the end, the balloon is very much thinned out, and so it's not as hard. So you definitely want to get yourself a big pack of balloons that you can continue to advance your core training and really work towards better strength. Okay, so if you've taken the video of yourself and you recognize that your lower belly is pooching, or you did feel that pressure down onto your pelvic floor, what can you do to start to retrain, or not retrain, but to strengthen your core training without putting that pressure on? So the very first thing that you want to think about is a pursed lips. So instead of using a balloon, the first level that we're going to start with is a pursed, forceful exhale with your mouth. And so you can do this with any of your core exercises, whether it's a dead bug, it's a side plank, or it's a hands and knees position like I showed in that one video. Start with that pursed lips. So you're going to get that good inhale in through the nose, and then as you exhale, you're just going to purse your lips like you're trying to blow out a birthday candle. So inhale through the nose, exhale. And your goal is to get all of the breath all the way out, because when we get all of the breath out, that's automatically going to turn your core on a little bit more, but also it allows you to get a better inhale when all of the breath has left the system. And so like I said, you can do this in any of the core exercises that you do. Start with that, or maybe you just kind of sit here and work on your breathing with that exhale, or in that supine position. And then step number 2, or option number 2, is to close your fist so that you have just a little hole in your fist, because this is again going to provide some resisted breathing, which is going to make that exhale a little bit harder, which is going to increase that intra-abdominal pressure, which we need to increase our intra-abdominal pressure so that our body can learn to handle it, especially for those of you that have prolapse. So I just like to take the fist. So we'll go into a hands and knees position, because this position is hard in and of itself because we're working against gravity, but I also like to start in this position, or a supine position, just like we did the test in, or even a side lying position or a side plank to work. So supine, side lying breathing, side plank, or hands and knees breathing. So I'm just gonna take one hand. So we want to think our knees are underneath our hips, and we're pressing through the floor. So working through the serratus, and you want to think about your pubic bone coming up toward your sternum. So you're slightly tucking under in a posterior pelvic tilt, but you're not clenching those glutes under. Okay. In the one video I showed using a yoga ball behind me, because what we don't want is we don't want our hips to shift back, and we don't want them to shift forward. We want to lock it down and to be able to hold this position while we do our breathing. So you can do your inhale, exhale here with the pursed lips. And then repeat that. And so automatically, even in this position, I was able to feel my deep core turn on because of the pursed lips. So after that, then you're going to take that closed fist, And you're going to place it up on your mouth, and you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to blow through the closed fist. So it's not entirely closed. I have a little hole, but again, this is going to provide some resistance for my exhale. So I'm going to inhale through my nose and exhale through my fist. So I said, you want to make sure that all of your breath, you fully exhale everything out. Once you feel pretty good with that, then you can add in a straw. Now, there's straws of all sorts of shapes and sizes, so I would recommend a plastic straw. And the bigger the straw is, the easier it's going to be. The smaller the straw is, obviously, the harder because it's that resisted breathing. So once you've mastered the pursed lips, you feel good about it, and then you've done the closed fist, then you're going to add in the straw to go to that next level. So it's going to be that same thing. We're going to practice either in a supine position, a side lying position, or a side plank, and hands and knees. Like I said, I really like the hands and knees because it really helps to get those lower abs, working through the serratus, but also getting that breath into our back, which tends to be the most sticky spots for our bodies. Okay, especially as moms, right? So you're going to place the straw just like you would with the balloon. You're going to place the straw in between your lips. You're not clenching down tight on it. You're just using it there. You're just closing with your lips. So you're going to inhale through your nose. And you're going to feel that the deep core turn on. You should feel lift up off your pelvic floor as you exhale from the bottom up. Once you've mastered that, you're like, okay, Angela, I'm ready for something more advanced. Then you can add in that balloon. Now, I do like adding in a yoga block to help squeeze between the knees, because when we squeeze between the knees, we're getting those adductors to turn on, which automatically helps to turn on the front of the pelvic floor as well. So hands and knees position, you're going to place the block, or you can even use a yoga ball between the knees. You also want to think about slightly tucking that tailbone under so you're more into a posterior pelvic tilt, because that's going to address more of those lower abdominals. And we want to make sure that we're not shifting and rocking forward with our hips. So you're going to inhale through your nose and then exhale into the balloon. Okay? If that felt good, of course, it's so loud. All right, so once you feel like you've mastered that, and you can do about 5-ish breaths into the balloon, take a break, do it about 2 to 3 times, continue to practice it. Then once you feel ready for an even more advanced version, then you can bring it to a hands and knees position. However, I would recommend that you would master this hands and knees position first without the balloon breathing before you go into balloon breathing into this position. All right, so if you feel like you come into this position and your tailbone is slightly tucked under, but then you drop down, you drop your abdomen down because you've lost your core control, you're not ready for that yet. All right, continue to work in that hands and knees position. And maybe what you do is you just start with 3-second hold, 3, 2, 1, and then drop down and then do it again. So ideally, I would like for you to be able to hold a bear hover for about 30 to 60 seconds 3 times through without letting your abdominals go, meaning that you can control your abdominals before you add in that balloon breathing with it. Because like I said, the balloon breathing is going to increase intra-abdominal pressure already. This is the purpose. This is the intent, because we need to overload our core just like we would overload a squat, a chest press, or anything like that. This is our way to overload the core. We don't have weights for the core other than the balloon breathing, or using the straw of the closed fist. So make sure you master the basics first, and then you can start to add these steps in. And then you can use this as part of your training. I love using the balloon in my bear hovers. I love using it in my side planks. You can use it for other positions like a squat on the wall, which I will share another video on all the ways that I like to use a balloon to overload my core training. But this video is just getting you started, understanding balloon training and understanding how to overload your core in basic positions, because we need to be able to master those basic positions before we add it on to anything more intense. Well, if you want to get started or you're like, Angela, this is way too advanced for me, no worries. I do have a free pelvic floor blueprint down below. This walks you through the steps on a diaphragmatic breathing, connecting with your core, understanding tightness versus weakness, all the things that you need to get started to restoring your pelvic floor strength at home. If you're ready for the next step, make sure to check out my Core Revive program. This is my 4-week pelvic floor training program, rehab based corrective exercise. I walk you through step by step full follow along videos. And if you're even more ready for something even more advanced, my 12-week core lift program is specifically designed for women such as yourself that you're ready to lift weights, but you still need some support for lifting with Prolapse. This is the program for you. So make sure to check it out down below. Make sure to just subscribe to my channel. Wow, tongue twister there. Subscribe to the channel and make sure to like this video and share with a mama friend that could use it. And I'll see you in the next video.